All right, we'll get started with pre-meeting and 2020 census ward boundaries. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you today. We were hoping we could visit with you a little bit tonight about this conversation as it relates to redistricting, and certainly at the state level and the county level, this is of huge import right now and is happening at a fairly fast clip, as it were. As a matter of fact, there's a pretty critical meeting happening on Friday at 7, if any of you would like to come and follow that conversation a little more closely. But it would certainly be important to understand, if you do attend, that indeed the proposal that we would like to offer would be to correct what it is that you see there, particularly in line with respect to the calculation of the respective populations with each of the wards. And as you can tell, even just as at a cursory look, that the span between Ward 1 and Ward 3, Ward 2 and Ward 3 is, okay, my eyes are tricking me here. Ward 1 and Ward 3, there's quite a bit of disparity. And the idea is that we, particularly as census data comes in, we try to get that number, those numbers, a lot more closer together. Thanks to the effort of our GIS team in IT, we think we have a really good proposal to carry with us on Friday that we wanted to be sure that you were fully aware of, so that you were not uninformed with regard to what it is that we'd like to move forward with and promote and propose as it relates to how redistricting impacts our wards here in Casper. So that is the current scenario, which, by the way, has not been amended since 2002, which was kind of a surprise to me. We are proposing the following. This is what it is that we'd like to go forward with as we approach the conversation and belly up to the table, as it were, with this in hand. You will probably notice real quickly a lot of distinctions. However, I probably wouldn't do those distinctions as much justice as our GIS scientist would. And so if I could defer to Denise and Michael to walk you through some of those distinctions, I would sure appreciate that.
Alrighty, good evening. As you see displayed, what we have identified are areas in which Ward 1 and Ward 3 have large population imbalances. What we've tried to do, and there was two primary factors that we were trying to make sure we adhered to. One is population apportionment. As was identified, our current ward configurations, Ward 1 and 3, there's roughly a 14% imbalance between those wards. The state recommends that we stay between a plus or minus of 5%. That's the recommendation. What you see here, the population distribution between Ward 1 and Ward 3 is 3.6%. So what we've done in order to achieve this is to take and move some of the areas that were previously Ward 3, and move them into Ward 1. Those are namely the neighborhoods that are south of the cemetery, but we do stop at 21st Street, and then we also utilize South McKinley as a demarcating border as well. The second factor that we were trying to achieve, in addition to the population apportionment and make sure it was staying balanced, was to make sure we had very easy geographical barriers that could be used for the legal description. If you refer back to our current ward boundaries, namely because I've actually read through the ordinance that describes them, very difficult to interpret, especially for the common citizen. So what we tried to do in addition to achieving that equal balance and population apportionment was to also use some very clear geographic boundaries that would be easy to interpret from a lay perspective. So that's why we stuck with the South Beverly, bringing in, while we could, to keep the population balanced, those neighborhoods that were once Ward 3 and now moved into Ward 1. One of the other factors that we considered, we were hoping that this would be a really easy, clear case of let's use South Poplar as a demarcation line and then also utilize Beverly. What we found was a primary issue with that particular configuration is that we would create an imbalance in Ward 1 if we use those as our primary geographic barriers, namely because the area that's south of the cemetery that was once Ward 3, extremely densely populated. So that was the area that we really had to focus on in order to get our populations in balance with one another. Is there any questions?
Councilman Kathy.
Well, one of my main concerns is I noticed you have moved the cemetery from 3 into 1, and I pretty well had those votes sewed up, and I hate to lose them.
Actually, a majority of the cemetery is not a census block, so our smallest unit of measure is a census block. Interestingly enough, and if you will look through the two exhibits, in the more recent exhibit, because the Life Steps campus has included some residential occupancies there, we have a census block of 16 that runs slightly into the cemetery. It's not to indicate that we have population at the cemetery, it's to indicate the residences at the Life Steps campus. But yes.
Anybody else have questions?
So, well, I have one further one then. How is the population, now that you've redistributed 1 and 3, how does that do then between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3?
One of the very fortunate factors in this was Poplar Street is an excellent demarcation line between Ward 1 and Ward 2. Ward 2 stays balanced in all approaches. The numbers that you see and there were 3 different scenarios that we essentially organized when going through this exercise. And using Poplar Street, it always kept Ward 2 in balance. So there were a few areas that ran just east of Poplar that were once located in Ward 2. We've moved those into Ward 1 and made that Poplar Street to be the clear geographic barrier. So that works in all scenarios. It keeps everything in balance. I believe between Ward 1 and Ward 2, the population in the most current scenario is at 1.4% balance, and between Ward 2 and Ward 3, I think it's 1.9%.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And if anyone would like to attend, just to reiterate, the Commissioners' Meeting Room, 7 a.m. Friday morning, there'll be a presentation that represents the new district boundaries and Senate boundaries in addition to our ward boundaries.
Did you say 7 a.m.?
7 a.m., bright and early. Commissioners' Meeting Room.
All right. You have anything else that you need on that, Mr. City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, just to thank our team for putting this together. I hope you feel, as I do, that the adjustments are very appropriate and represent, in my opinion, just a really solid proposal for our folks to consider.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda review, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking over the information here today, I don't see a whole lot here to bring to your attention. We will be needing an executive session later. However, I don't anticipate land acquisition will be a topic we need to cover. But I'm certainly open for any questions council might have.
Any questions by anybody? Okay. Well, then we'll sit in recess for about 15 minutes, and then we'll get started.
Thank you.
Thank you. You ready? Okay. All right, we'll get started here. So before we begin this evening, I'd like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones at this time. I now call the October 19th, 2021 regular council meeting to order. The chair would entertain a motion to by minute action to excuse the absence of Councilmember Nell.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, second by Councilmember Pollock. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Council meetings are also televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. Could you join Councilman Gamroth in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting as will be published in the Casper Star Tribune on October 13th, 2021, as was.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Ingebretson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Gamroth. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the October 12th, 2021 special council meeting as was published in the Casper Star Tribune on October 17th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Pollock, second by Councilman Gamroth. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With the abstention of Councilmember Johnson noted, motion passed.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the October 12th, 2021 executive session.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Pacheco, second by Councilman Gamroth. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With the abstention of Councilmember Johnson noted, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the October 19th, 2021 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Pollock, second by Councilwoman Ingebretson. Any abstention or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. As stated on the first page of the agenda, we ask the following. Please state your name and address. Direct all questions, comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal attacks on staff or council will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. These will be referred to the city manager. Questions posed by speakers may or may not be responded to by council members. Presentations will be limited to 5 minutes and duplication of speakers will not be allowed, nor will time extensions be permitted. Please note that public hearings and ordinances each have their own comment period, so please hold your comments on those items until we have reached them. Is there anyone that would like to address council? Okay. Please read the consent agenda titles.
Establishing November 2nd, 2021 is the public hearing date for consideration of the following two items. Item 8A1A, the transfer of ownership for retail liquor license number 5, Travis Taylor doing business as Cocktails, located at 138 South Kimball Street, to 307 Horse Racing Inc., doing business as 307 Horse Racing, located at 138 South Kimball Street, And item 8A1B, a new microbrewery liquor license for number 8 for the Blacktooth Brewing Company LLC doing business as Blacktooth Brewing Company located at 322 South David Street, Suite A.
The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, establish the public hearing dates just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, second by Councilman Johnson. Any abstention or nay votes?
I will abstain from both A1, A, and B, please.
I will abstain from A1A.
Okay, any others? Please cast your vote.
Nope, just yes.
And please record the vote.
With the abstention of Councilmember Hollick on both items and the abstention of Councilmember Gamroth on one of the items noted, motion passed.
Please read the ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance approving a zone change of the former Willard School property, lots 1 through 12, block 97, Butler's Addition.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Pollock, second by Councilman Johnson. Council now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Is there anybody that would like to address council on this? Okay, discussion? Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance amending certain sections of Chapter 13.03, Utility Billing and Collection of the Casper Municipal Code.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Gamroth. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Discussion. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Item 10A1, approval and adoption of the Casper Rail Trail Extension Plan. Item 10A2, the approval and adoption of the Evansville Trail Linkage Plan. Item 10A3, the approval and adoption of the Robertson Road to Mills Trail Extension Plan. Item 10A4, a demolition lien release for 710 East K Street. Item 10A5, a contract with Thomson Reuters for Westlaw Internet Legal Research Services. Item 10A6, a contract with Advexture Unmanned Systems for an unmanned aircraft. Item 10A7, a contract with the Casper Area Chamber of Commerce for the Casper Christmas Parade. Item 10A8, a contract with Kinsco LLC for fire EMS uniforms. Item 10A9, a contract with Dave Loden Construction for Life Steps roof replacements. Item 10A10, a contract with WWC Engineering for K Street improvements. Item 10A11, an outside city water agreement with Matthew J. and Darcy Rich. Item 10A12, approval and adoption of the one-way to two-way conversion study. And item 10A13, approval of the Hogannon night skiing rates.
The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Pacheco, second by Councilman Johnson. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments on any of the items? Okay. Any abstention or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the consent minute action titles.
Item 11A1, the purchase of 45 new Scott X3 Pro self-contained breathing apparatus from C Western. Item 11A2, a purchase of 2 new tandem axle trucks from CMI Tico. Item 11A3, the purchase of 1 new compact excavator from Bobcat of Casper. Item 11A4, the purchase of 3 new pickup trucks from Griner Motors. And item 11A5, the purchase of 1 UTV from Stotts Equipment.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read. Moved by Councilwoman Ingebretson, second by Councilman Gamroth. Any abstention or nay votes? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
At this time, we ask council members to bring forward relevant concerns or items of interest. Councilwoman Engebretson.
I attended a meeting last night with Natrona County Republican women, and we had a few legislatures, and I think that there's some people that misunderstand what the special election is for. So I just wanted to reiterate that this is for just the two projects, and that estimated cost for all the individuals will be about $100. And so it's going to last about 3 months. So I think that people still seem to think that this is going to be an ongoing tax, and they keep saying that this is something that is not going to go away. So I want to make sure to also let the public know that the voting isn't at the normal voting places, so make sure that you double check where you vote at, so you can vote at the courthouse or double check where those voting polls are at, or you can get an early ballot. But it's very important that everybody get out and vote.
Councilman Johnson.
I just want to reiterate what Councilwoman Engebretson said. It is important to get out and vote. Last time we had a special election in an off year, I think we had 3,500 people vote as a smoking ban for the entire city of Casper. 3,500 people decided on that issue. So if you want your voice to be heard, you got to go make it heard by voting. So that's all I have.
Councilman Gamros.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much other than, I guess I'd love to talk at some point in the future. Maybe this is a private conversation. I'm wasting our time right now. But we had lots of packet materials to go over this last weekend, I think like 1,200 pages. And part of that was the urban center parking plan. I thought some of that data was really interesting, such as the 62% collection rate for tickets, essentially zero consequences for people that chose not to pay their ticket, and the need identified in this study, and it sounds like many other studies, to turn over parking downtown, whether through enforcement of our current limits, our 2-hour limits. Councilman Nell suggested meters last week, and I know that's not popular, but there's a lot of good information in that parking plan, and so I guess I would just encourage people that are passionate about the issue of downtown parking and what we should do about it, whether we should charge for it, things like that. It's a very insightful document, and I'd love to, see where we're at with acting upon some of those recommendations at some point, because again, reading through that plan, it seems like there's a lot of things that maybe we haven't followed up on, and I know it's a mess downtown, so I would just love to explore that further. They also talked about an enterprise fund for parking management and hiring somebody to manage parking downtown and stuff. I think there's a lot of good ideas, so I'd love to explore that at some point. I attended a DDA board meeting last week. If you haven't seen, the DDA is offering free parking at the parking garage until Halloween. So take advantage of that to go patronize the businesses downtown. Not patronize, please. They're nice people. Spend your money there. And then we also discussed the need for ever-evolving programs in response to interest and attendance. Some of the interest in some of the downtown, the David Street Station events have waned, and so they're being very proactive, not just doing the same program as is, upholding the status quo. They're always looking for opportunities to, add to their programming or change their programming to meet the needs of the people in our community. So I want to congratulate them on that, and also thank them for the free parking downtown. Thank you.
Councilman Cathy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Attended the Joint Powers Water Board meeting today. That meeting went quite well. No real major issues. The water plant is up and running well and providing us all good drinking water. But one other thing that I would like to bring to the public's attention is, I know the last time we granted the transfer of a liquor license to what used to be the old sidelines, which was now going to be a gambling spot, and now I have gotten an email or two about the transfer of this liquor license number 5, and all of those comments have seemed to think that it is a city awarding a liquor license to somebody and wanting us to retain those licenses. And in both cases, the city was doing nothing but was agreeing to allow the transfer of a liquor license from one private business entity to another. And so in essence, we would have been stifling private business. And in this particular instance with liquor license number 5, we will actually be transferring a liquor license that has been held by a private individual and not really been utilized for the last 3 to 5 years to an entity that now will be putting it into service. So neither one of these situations should we really be in a position, as long as they both meet the legal requirements of stifling private business and private enterprise. So I wanted to pass that on, that we are not issuing or granting any new liquor licenses, so there's nothing to be saved for future businesses or anything else. So I wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Quest.
Nothing from me other than stay warm and drive safely.
Councilmember Pollock.
I got to participate in a roundtable along with Mayor Friel and Councilman Pacheco, city manager, a number of other stakeholders, and some downtown business owners this last week to brainstorm and kind of lay out the variety of issues that have been raised, I think probably to all members of council, about some of the juvenile activity downtown. And so it was really just kind of a starting point so that we were all able to get on the same page and talk about potential solutions. So I'm looking forward to continuing to working with Kevin at the DDA and the city and Casper Police Department to work on solutions to make sure local property owners and downtown business owners and Casper juveniles and everybody is sort of coexisting in a more positive way as we move forward as a community. So going to be continue to work on that, hopefully have some plans in place before next summer. So yeah, it's a positive meeting, and I'm really happy to see some citizen participation there. And that's all I have.
Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Thank you. Just a couple items. Had the LGBTQ advisory committee Friday, and so I went to that. They covered several different things. One of the topics, they did have a conversation with the Natrona County School District, Verba Eccles. Marie Purrier was invited. She wasn't able to make it because had a family emergency, and Dirk Andrews, who's with the WDA, WDE, excuse me. And so I had a conversation about how we can continue to support and work within the school district with LGBTQ issues. And so it was a good conversation that they had and how they can work together. Had a healthy discussion about the proposed ordinance that's coming our way, and I know the staff has been talking about that, and our attorney has been looking over that, and we'll come back with recommendations to the committee on what that will look like as we move forward with that. So I had a brief discussion about the Safe Place project as they're kind of continuing to look at what are some ways that we can have the Safe Place project, what that looks like. So bear with us and be patient. That should be coming and probably more on the Safe Place project as we go with that. While this is still a little bit away, I have the Council of People with Disabilities on the 28th, so I'll be doing that here coming up very shortly. And then I am honored to move up the ladder at Park and speak to third graders and not kindergartners with my colleagues here. Amber and Kyle will be joining that and talking and taking the heat from third graders. I'm excited about that. So they do ask really good questions. So we'll be doing that tomorrow morning. So that's all I've got.
Well, I was at the water board meeting. Councilman Cathy covered that. I was at the downtown meeting, and you got that covered, and I missed that meeting because I was out of town. So that's all I've got for tonight. The next meetings of the City Council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 26, 2021 in council chambers, and a regular council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021 in the council chambers. A notice of an executive session take place at this date and during this meeting was given. We have a matter to discuss regarding personnel, ongoing litigation, and land acquisition. Therefore, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session, and at the conclusion of that executive session, to reconvene this regular meeting solely for the purposes of adjournment of this regular meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Pollock, second by Councilwoman Ingebretson. There being a majority of members present and a motion to adjourn into an executive session having been moved and seconded, and that motion requiring a 2/3 majority of council present. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
A greater than 2/3 majority of council present voted in favor of the motion, so we are hereby adjourned into an executive session.